For a typical implementation at K2fly, once we have welcomed a new customer into the K2fly family, we will kick off the project with the customer and lay the foundations of what the project will entail in terms of scope and responsibility and deliverables. We then go through a number of different implementation phases to get to a point where we go live with the customer and sign off the project for the customer to then enter a support type phase. So the phases, those implementation phases, I guess, can be grouped into two main focus areas. The first one being around gathering customer requirements and really understanding what challenges they face in terms of data management, reporting, process, people, and compliance obligations. So once our implementation consultants have got a firm understanding of this, they will then go and set up a dedicated instance and space for the customer and tailor the configuration of the system to meet, to address those challenges and requirements. That's, I guess, in a nutshell, the first part of an implementation. The second part is really focused on exposing that work and that end product to the customer, first of all in a test environment. So it gives the clients an opportunity to review the work that has been done to date, review and play with their own data in the system and apply it to their own real life scenarios on a kind of day-to-day basis. So this user acceptance testing phase can last anywhere from a week to a month or sometimes longer, depending on how long it takes for the customer to be really satisfied with the end product and, I guess more importantly, possess the skills and confidence to take that product over and administer it on their own to some degree. At that point, that's when we push it into a production environment and the customer can then enter into more of a support phase where our engagement with them changes to that support type model and product type engagement.
And wrapped up in that is a Prince 2 methodology, depending on the project and what the client is requiring. But there's definitely a component of project management to make sure that we're delivering on time, on budget, and within the expectation around those processes.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, a kind of typical implementation process for a lot of enterprise type software companies. At K2fly, we're currently looking at ways to challenge that norm a little bit and trying to adopt some of our agile ways of working from the product delivery team and applying that to the client services implementation team. The reason why we are looking into this, and we've kind of done a little bit with some of the more recent projects, is that we found with the traditional approach, it can present a number of challenges to the customer in terms of them feeling a bit disconnected from the product and how things work in that development space, how quickly things are turned around and how we process ideas and feedback that we get from them. That traditional approach also doesn't lend itself to pivot priority very easily once a project commences because it is quite structured and the teams can often become quite siloed because they're quite distinct phases and functions from the teams. So with this more agile way of working, we can pivot a bit more easily with the customer and it does happen quite often because once they start using the product in a lot more depth, they do change focus a little bit and change priorities, so the workload applying that agile way can be reorganised and shuffled around without impacting the budget and scope too much. So the other thing with implementation at K2fly is our product team are really, they work really closely with our services team. So the services team are across what's happening in product in terms of releases and even sprint level development in some cases. Often we'll find in a customer project there might be a component of product development or tweaking of the product to better suit a scenario, and having that unity between the product and the services divisions allows us to work in that Scrum type manner on a particular customer project, so we can get functionality out quite quickly and deliver that as part of a project as well.
And the customer's expectations are managed through that process, and they understand exactly what they're getting when they're getting it, and you get a better, more satisfied customer at the end of it. So it works really well for us.
Yeah, and we don't just build, obviously, for one particular specific scenario. It needs to be something that will benefit the entire customer base.
One of the interesting things about the K2fly customer base is that they are spread all over the globe. Mining and asset-intensive industry is not congregated in one location. So from a software delivery perspective, we have a challenge around time and space and how to deliver our software. I think the next-gen technology and capability means that our cloud-first approach really talks to that, speaks to that, from both an implementation and a support perspective. But I think one of the key bits around the COVID process that we've been going through is the ability to deliver software remotely. We've seen some changes in that, haven't we, Zoe?
Yeah, absolutely. And beyond just that product side of things, the services side of things, being able to deliver a project remotely, we were really, challenged to come up with new and innovative ways to reach that customer base, particularly with regards to training. With configuration and setting up systems, that's quite easy to do remotely, but with that execution of training and even support services as well, we looked at ways to better deliver those services from our offices here, as well as put in place in the product things like live chat tools, quite extensive online help material, and guides around some common activities within the product that worked really well for us. And then obviously the kind of video type chat products around, we utilise those quite extensively to deliver the training, and the feedback was quite positive, and the customers are using it in a production environment now quite well.
And with those in-app chat kind of mechanisms, they're not traditionally put into vendor enterprise solutions. So we're getting real good feedback from our tier 1 mining customers about their capability in here, drawing parallels to the banking sector and how much that's really helped customer service. We also bake in Net Promoter Score into those tools, so we're getting continual feedback, which leads both back into implementation but also back into product, and that's why putting those two close together really makes sense for us. Net Promoter Scores in the mining industry of around 61 to 70 is a really good result, and certainly our next gen tools are kind of eliciting that sort of response.
I think success for an implementation at K2fly takes on a number of different dimensions per se. So the first dimension is really around, project operational type things. So was the project delivered on time and within a set budget? That's a very common metric for success. The second dimension looks at that product delivery side of things. That's probably the core part of any implementation. So does the functionality and the solution that our consultants have delivered satisfy the customer requirements and challenges? And is it a stable and well-performing product? The third dimension would look at the services side of things. So has the teams built strong relationships along the way, where our team or were the consultants responsive and supportive of the customer throughout that implementation process? And I think that those three kind of focus areas are what drives some of the key metrics for success. Having said that, with every project that we work on at the start of the project, when we do the kick-off session, we will work with the customer to come up with a set of metrics for success. So each customer will have the ability to provide input into what success looks like for them for that particular project. We obviously have some commonly used ones that we help guide them with. However, it provides them with an opportunity to specifically and I guess in a tangible way document what they see as success, and that's what we use throughout the entire project as a touch point to come back to and make sure we are delivering against those metrics. And then obviously in the closeout session with the customer, we will go through those metrics and deem whether we achieved them or not, and sometimes there's new ones that come up or some that are irrelevant, but I think that way it allows the customer to take control over what success is to them.
I think from a success perspective from my side, as I often play a project sponsor role in, is the ability to pick up a telephone and call a customer a couple of months after the implementation. Also sit in on monthly service level meetings and see the positive kind of response that the customer's having in working with our team, both the services team and the product development team. And that kind of feedback is a key health check for me. And if it's working well, i.e. it's not weighted too heavily on the customer side or not weighted too heavily on the K2fly side, if that balance is right, it shows me that the project has been implemented correctly and it's meeting expectation from a customer perspective. And it's about doing a health check at various points down the line, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years down the line. Happy customers, it's word of mouth. That's the way that we like to organically grow the business as well, and making sure that those customers are talking positively about our products is pretty much a good success outcome for me.
It's really important to maintain those relationships from the product development side of things as well, because we want to continuously engage with customers post-project to get that feedback and insight and feed it directly back into the product development cycle. And that way the product can evolve in line with what customers are asking for, and it's not going off on its own tangent based on what we think might be beneficial to the customers.